Hey everybody, this is Daniel. I'm here at Pyramind and they asked me to give you a tip today about drums and what drums do in songs. It's a pretty big topic and one that us drummers spend a lot of time thinking about, hopefully. But I just kind of wanted to remove some of the myths of what drums do in a band and what they do in a track and talk about kind of how they make up a track, how they make a track move, and how they can give us very, very important information about what we're doing in a track. Whether it's you're playing in a band or you're producing an electro, house, drum and bass track, drums are everywhere in modern music. So it's really important to understand kind of what's going on. So the first thing that is usually, a myth that a lot of people talk about is they go, oh yeah, man, drummers, they keep time in the band and stuff. But that's not true. In a really good band, everybody keeps time. And the drummer, the bass player, the guitar player, everybody is focused in and making sure that, time is good. Hopefully everyone has good time. If they don't, they tend to rely on the drummer. So a lot of weaker bands, yeah, the drummer's keeping time. But in a really good band, everybody's got good time. So then the question becomes, what are drums doing? If they're not keeping the time, if everybody's there to keep time, what's the purpose of the drum? To make people move, but that's not quite a thing because it becomes a topic of genre. All right, we have to discuss and we have to articulate what drums are doing based on particular genres, okay? So let's go through a couple of these genres and just kind of figure out what drums are doing. So the first one we'll go with is pretty basic. It's some house music. Yay, house. 4 on the floor. We'll talk about 4 on the floor in a second, but here we go. Okay, so nice house track, right? And house track has 4 on the floor. And what 4 on the floor is when we take the kick drum and we play it on every downbeat of a song. So just like this. All right, really basic time-keeping element. But Dan, you just said drums don't keep time. Well, they don't keep time all the time. We'll get there, okay? House music is supposed to make people dance. And that 4 on the floor kick is what's really propelling people and giving them some stability. And there's the key word, right? Stability. Because as a producer and as somebody writing music, whether it's in a band or in a DAW, we have to think of how tracks interact with the rest of the music, right? So what is the kick doing in relation to the hi-hat, that little sound that's going, wow, wow, the little percussion elements on the side? That's what we want to focus on, right? We know we want to make people dance. Different genres will make people dance in different ways, right? People dance to house music, but people also dance to salsa. Very different styles of music, right? So let's talk about just that interaction of the track. It's providing a base for all the other instruments to sit on top of. And that's its role in house. Its role in house to say, hey man, guys, I got you. You crazy percussion stuff, you do whatever you want. Like that, wow, wow, you get to do whatever you want, right? If we listen to house tracks that have sidechain compression on like pads, those pads that go like, wah, 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 right? They're created by that kick, and that kick gives some stability, right? If I start doing that and singing at the same time and I'm committing a faux pas, I'm gonna play and talk. Oh shit. Right? It gives a pad. It gives the pads a pad to propel forward, right? So because of the stability of the kick, I'm able to make other things less stable and floaty and kind of go around everywhere. But that's how that music is working or that's how the kick is working in house music. And let's talk about some other genres for a second. So let's talk about another type of genre. We're gonna have drums be a stability, right? And that's older styles of jazz, okay? I'm gonna play a track from Kind of Blue, Freddie the Freeloader. And what I want you to focus in on is that the kick isn't being stable, but the ride cymbal, this guy right here, that's the stability, okay? And that's working with the bass, the stand-up bass, the double bass, to provide that that the soloist, right? Bill Evans on the piano, everybody else can kind of, again, float on top of, and they're not as constrained in terms of their rhythm because of the stability of the double bass and the ride cymbal. Let's take a listen to that for a second. You hear that bass is doing a walking bass, right? Where it's just playing 4 chord notes. Boom, 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 boom. Just like the 4 on the floor in house music, right? That's providing the stability, right, for that piano to play all these really cool syncopated rhythms. It's just letting you focus in and just be solid with that rhythm, okay? But that's two genres where, again, it's kind of going exactly with what I had said drums don't do at the beginning, right? Drums don't keep time, everybody keeps time. And in those tracks, it's not that they're keeping time, it's that they're keeping stability. It's that they're keeping an essence of time that everything else can float off of, okay? But let's focus on types of music where the drums aren't keeping time, right? So we're in this jazz genre. Let's go with another Miles Davis track a little bit later. These are if you know the Miles discography, these are post ESP sessions. This is Live in Berlin from like 1967. And you can hear on that track, the drums are a little bit freer than they were in the previous track, right? Tony Williams is kind of responding to Herbie and responding to Miles, and it's Ron Carter who's sitting there, he's just like, doom, 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 da-doom, 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 right? He's keeping that stability. But this style of jazz doesn't need as much rigidity. You can't say that the band doesn't have bad time. These are some of the best musicians in the world, right? But time and that is less of a focus on this track. So we're having time being kept in all these different genres, but now the role of the drums is shifting. In house, right, and in the older style of jazz, it was creating a stability for everybody else. But in this other style of jazz, this like post-ESP quintet style, the bass player, Ron Carter's doing that. And the drums are able to kind of open up and free themselves, right? So let's go into a style of music, for all the electronic fans out there, that is the complete departure of this, right? And that's gonna be drum and bass. The drums, yeah, they're in time, just like everything else should be in time, but they're like the primary focus of the track. They're the ones creating all of this tension and just going absolutely ape crazy. No, I'm not gonna swear. Ape crazy, right, on what's going on. So one of my favorite, Aphex Twin. Right? And there, the drums are going crazy, right? But you have a pretty simple melody and a pretty simple melody, right? That's basically what the vocals are doing, a little, not as defined in the intonation. But the drums are able to go crazy, 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 right? They're going crazy. You have simplicity in some of the other tracks, which allows the drums to go kind of crazy. But there's nothing in the track that's going like doom, 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 doom. Because the genre of music doesn't dictate it, right? The precedent set by the forefathers of drum and bass didn't say, hey, you know what, we need this crazy stability, right? It's supposed to be chaotic. It's supposed to be filled with tension, right? The house track, right, the early jazz track, those things are relaxed, they're cool. Like you want to dance and it's a lot of fun, right? The next Miles track, the Live in Berlin stuff, it's a little crazier. It's cerebral. You're supposed to be thinking about it a lot. The drum and bass track, it's just energy. It's just the entire time. So the drums are playing different roles. They're not just timekeepers. Again, dispelling that myth. But in rock and roll, they're doing the same thing. So let's go with one last genre, my favorite genre, butt rock, right? Let's listen to a wonderful butt rock track.
Can't explain all the feelings that you're making me feel. My heart's in overdrive and you're behind the steering wheel. Touching you, touching me, touching you.
I'm not even trying. Right? In that style, the drums are keeping a very stable beat, right? The bass and the guitars, I know if you write butt rock, bass and guitars always play the same part. But they're able to kind of have the syncopated rhythm off of the drums. So going back to how it was like in house music and how it was like in that kind of blue jazz track, Freddie the Freeloader. Very different genres, all based on American blues and jazz, right? Very different genres, and the drums are playing slightly different parts, but it's more about how they're interacting with the other instruments, which gives variety. right? So it's really important in trying to dispel that myth, the drummer keeps the time. No, the drummer may keep the time, but it could be the responsibility of somebody else. And not only that, is time appropriate? Right? If we think of classical music, where's the beat in classical music, right? We don't listen to Beethoven and go like, oh man, it's a badass drums right here. Yeah, maybe in the 70s there was the disco Beethoven's Fifth, but nobody likes that track. They only think of it ironically or funny, right? It's not part of there. The drums aren't supposed to keep the tempo. You're supposed to focus on melody. The drums are actually this ancillary little thing, this little thing that like pokes in, little bell parts, little cymbal crashes and bass drums that signify something. We'll talk about that in a second, right? So knowing the genre and what the precedent set at your genre is going to be is really important in understanding how the drums are going to play out in your track, right? Now, we're talking about all these different genres and we're saying, okay, drums don't keep time. Everybody keeps time. But you could sit there and go, what's the vocalist going to do? The vocalist is going to sing the hook. Okay, what's the piano going to do? The piano is going to play a lot of accompany parts, pads. So what do the drums do over all genres, modern genres, right? We're not talking classical music, we're talking like pop, rock, reggae, dub, right? Drum and bass, blues, all this kind of stuff. What are the drums doing that crosses all genres, okay? The bass player, he creates harmonic support, right? He's sitting there playing the roots of all the chords so that your piano player, your guitar players, your vocalists have something to sit on top of, this wonderful foundation. But the drums are doing something different, okay? And so I'm gonna play a little bit and ask a little questions. So here we go. So, here are the questions. A, what was the melody of the song? Okay, what key was the song in? Nope, ain't got no answer for that. But, did I start in the verse or did I start in the chorus? And then, did I end up at a chorus? How many verses and choruses did I play? Hopefully, if you're answering the way that I want you to answer, and I'm right, so you should answer that way. If you're answering that way, I started off in a verse, right? In a modern rock or modern pop verse. And then I played a little fill, and then I went to the ride cymbal, and then I was in a chorus. So I can't tell what my melody's gonna be. I can't tell what my harmony's gonna be, but I know the structure of my song, the form of my song. And that's what drums do over all genres. They dictate form, right? You heard it right now. How many songs have you heard in your life where, guess what? The drummer plays the hi-hat during the verses and the rides during the choruses, right? And how many different genres have you heard that? Funk, rock, blues, jazz, so many different styles, right? That's what drums help do. And even in classical music, they help signify form as well, right? Because I had my verse beat, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I had my chorus beat, yeah, 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 yeah. Right? And then what did I do to signify we were in the chorus? Oh, I hit a crash cymbal, right? I marked a new section. I was like, bam, here we go, next section. And that's the purpose of drums and why we really need to spend a lot of time, I'm not saying this because I'm a drummer and I love drums, but we really need to spend a lot of time signifying form. One of the weakest things I hear in young producers, and young not being age, young being terms of experience, sorry, right? And young producers, right, is an inability to properly signify form. They get this dope loop, they get this great kind of thing going on, and then they just let that run throughout. And there's nothing to go like, hey, we're in a new section of the song. Hey, we're in another section of the song. Hey, we're coming back to this section of the song, right? When you think of drums signifying form, think of being an author. Think of writing a book, right? If you ever read a Dan Brown book, and I'm not saying Dan Brown books are great, right? My sister calls them airport books because they're great to read when you're at the airport. It's just there and there and there. But what does Dan Brown do at the end of every single chapter? He leaves a little cliffhanger, a little tension, right? And you're like, come on, I want to read the next page, right? And your flight's delayed, there's crying babies all over the place, so you might as well sit there and read. So you turn to the next page and you continue on. But he's always alluding to something. He's always giving you some other section. You're never lost in context. You're always like, oh, I'm here, and now we travel to this location, and in that journey, this thing happened, and then I ended up at this spot, right? If you think of signifying form as leading your listeners onto a journey and never alienating them, never leaving them behind, never going like, you don't know where I'm at? What? Just because I blindfolded you and put earplugs in and didn't let you sense anything, you should know where I'm at? No. Lead the listener on a journey and use your drums. Use drum parts to signify the form of that journey. I'm gonna play some parts and play some fills, and we're gonna talk about just the general gist of what comes into a verse, what goes into a chorus, and fills, right? Fills are gonna be super important. So as we heard before, right, the basic rock beat 101 is your basic verse in a rock and roll song, right? It goes like this. Okay, now let me do that same beat on the ride. Here we go. So why is it this is the verse and that's the chorus? Well, there is no reason, okay? It's all bullshit. My bullshit just sounds better than your bullshit. Until your bullshit sounds good, my bullshit's the bullshit you're gonna go with. Okay? And that's basically the reason why. Precedent has set it such that the hi-hat is the verse and the ride is the chorus. Now, precedent isn't an evil liar. They're not a dictator. We like that, right? The hi-hat is this nice, tight, closed sound, right? And in the verses, we're kind of talking about development of the song, right? When we talk about hooks and pop music and things like that, that's the chorus. That's the big open section. That's the thing everybody wants to sing along to, right? That's the fist bump in the, okay, I'm gonna stop, right? But that's the section, right? When we're at the verse, where things aren't quite there. Like, you know, the lyrics are a little different, right? You have verse A, verse B, all the lyrics are different. When we get to the chorus, the lyrics are all the same. Okay? So we like that openness of the chorus and we like that closed sound of the verse, right? That allows other things to kind of pop through and us to spend more time focusing on the lyrics, right? Because there's not as much detracting it. But that's not necessarily the case all the time. There's plenty of songs that have the ride cymbal on the verse, right? Or the chorus on the hats, or don't do anything at all. How many people have heard a song where this is the verse? Miss hit the red, right? That happens all the time too. But the idea behind it all is that you have something signifying this development section, whether it's a verse, whether it's section A of your song, just something that connotes difference between section to section to section, right? You have a big open section, suddenly it's like an electro track and all these pads fly everywhere and synths are all up above your head and percussion's going crazy, right? Maybe you want the drums to open up to propel the energy forward, right? This openness kind of lifts up the song, gives it this little added boost. And in fact, in a lot of tracks that I've heard over the years, whether it's naturally happening because bands naturally do this all the time, or people have gone into their DAW and sped it up, but choruses tend to naturally speed up in time. All the players do it. It's not the drummer and you don't have to sit there and be like, hey, buddy, you're rushing, right? Everybody does it because there's more energy there. The ride kind of represents more energy, right? But it's important just to separate those two sections, okay? Again, verse, chorus. Now I'm doing it with a really basic rock beat, right? But it works in funk. Right? It works in, I don't know, Latin music. I'm gonna totally fail at this attempt. Right? It works in multiple genres. That openness, that closeness. This openness, this closeness. Here's where the pop happens. Here's where the hooks are gonna happen. Here's where all the development's gonna happen. Okay? So, important to denote sections. Now, the last part about this is the transitions. And transitions are really, really, really important. A really good friend of mine who's an artist was saying in all art, whether it's film, books, music, or paintings, right? They all have really good transitions. Again, I was talking earlier about the writer leading you along and showing you where to go next, building that tension, right? The Dan Brown, the end of the chapter. Well, what's gonna happen? I gotta turn the page, right? That's what fills do, okay? If you're making a lot of electronic music, filter sweeps. Oh God, filter sweeps. If you're writing film music or video game music, cymbal swells. Oh God, cymbal swells. I'm gonna personal gripe here. Try not to overuse filter sweeps and cymbal swells, okay? There's too many. But they work really well in doing what? In starting to build anticipation for something, right? That filter sweep's kind of, and then you could like have everything just drop at that point, right? Or you can have it and suck away and everyone's like, wait, what's gonna happen? And then it drops, right? But that is leading the listener on a journey. And whether or not they expect you to go in the direction that you're going, or they're like, oh, left turn, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on, right? That's what fills are doing. They're going, hey, we're going into another section. So in a basic rock sense, again, drum set, rock drummer, I'm gonna do it in rock. I'll do it in a couple different genres, right? But in a basic rock sense, that fill's really going like, hey, we're going to the chorus, bam, right? Just like this. Right? Really easy ways to go, hey, we're going in this direction. Hey, we're going in this direction, right? Fills are important in building that energy. But you don't want to overdo it. You want to make sure you're leading people in the right direction. Notice a lot of my fills going into the chorus in this rock sense were kind of descending in tone to the cymbals. Right? And then going into the verse, they were kind of ascending in tone. Does it need to happen that way? No. It's just important that you give it direction to where you want to go. You could even mess stuff up. Again, it's all BS, but I'm being very specific about the type of BS I'm throwing at you, okay? And that's the important part, intent, right? I'm leading you along the way. Drums are signifying form, and not just form of like, oh, we're in the verse, oh, we're in the chorus, but also that we're going from verse to chorus, okay? That we're doing these things, and that works in all genres. I was talking about classical music not needing the beat, right? But the bass drum and the cymbals signifying something. In a lot of romantic music, the bass drum and the cymbals are signifying huge ends of crescendos, right? Right? They're signifying new section, new development. Hey, we've reached the top of this line. They're big signifiers. Form, form, form. Form is so important, okay? So what I'm gonna do next is we have a track with a band I play with called Surfboard, run by my good buddy TJ Mims. We recorded this a while ago. So released on Spotify and iTunes and all the great streaming services online. But we're gonna play a section a couple times, and I'm gonna play them incorrectly a couple times, and then correctly a couple times. And we're gonna listen to how adding fills, playing things that are expected of the music, and how the drums are gonna sit with the rest of the instruments are gonna affect the overall tone presentation, right, of how everything's being delivered to you, the listener, and what kind of journey we're taking you on. So please bear with the edit, but edit. Momentary pause. I know I was just talking and now I'm somewhere else. They have to decide where to edit me. So I'm there and I'm here. Okay, so this is the one that's talking right now. But anyways, like I said, we're gonna go through each one of these. So this is the description of the first one. And the first one I'm gonna play is the normal beat. So the normal beat is what I do on the record, just what I would do naturally as a drum set player. We're hearing a verse in a chorus section. The verse is very aggressive, just kind of punchy. And then the chorus is gonna open up and gonna have these oohs and ahs kind of on the chorus. So you'll hear me play this open hat, it's very aggressively hitting the drums, and then the moment it pops in the chorus, I'll switch over to the ride, open it up, let everything kind of shimmer and be nice and brilliant. So I won't talk that much more. Here we go. Why don't you go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage. So this next time, it's gonna be different. Bunny ears. And the reason it's gonna be different is, as opposed to going to the ride when that chorus hits, I'm gonna leave it on the hat and kind of open it up. So the verse, I'm actually playing closed hat as opposed to this open hat, and then on that chorus, I'm gonna open up the hat. And you'll just hear it's a different style of energy. I'm still playing the drums aggressively, but just by making that simple choice, as opposed to open hat, closed hat at that verse, as opposed to ride, open hat, you'll hear a kind of this energy difference in the song and where it wants to go. So again, previously it was normal, this time is gonna be different.
Guys, we're having the best conversation here.
The third one we're gonna do is no fills. So I'm gonna play it like I do the first one, where I'm on the hat for the first part, ride for the second part, but there'll be no transitionary material. So again, referencing to what I said earlier in this video, you'll hear no motion into each one of these sections. It will just kind of be cut here, and my talking about that loop stuff, you'll totally hear what I'm talking about and needing to lead that listener, okay? So now this is no fills. And then the last one's gonna be backwards. So backwards, what's gonna happen is on the verse, I'm actually gonna be playing the ride, and on the chorus, I'm gonna be playing the hi-hats. A really simple change. All of these differences in each one of the tracks are really simple, basic changes, but they do give this immense amount of energal difference. That's a word, energal. Yeah. This huge change in the energy, okay? With the open ride on that verse, it's not pushing as aggressively. When I switch over to the hi-hats for that chorus, it's not opening up as much. So take a listen to it and then, roll back the video and compare and contrast and be like, what's normal like? What's the different like? What's the no fills like? And the backwards. What's the backwards like? Listen to each one and hear how very simple, subtle change has drastic effects upon the motion of the music and the amount of energy. Energal. Yeah. How much energy each track is presenting to its listener, which is you. So go ahead and play. So this is the part of the video where I'm supposed to sign off. But just want to say thank you for watching the video. I hope it was instructional, as that's what we do here at Pyramind. But wanted to say, also, you'll find a link either somewhere around my face, not sure it's not placed there yet, or maybe down below my face. We're gonna be doing one hits on all the drums, right? So you're gonna get snare, kick, some toms, some crashes with kick, you know, and you can put them in whatever DAW you're using, chop them up, put them in a sampler, whatever you wanna do with them, you know, steal my music. I mean my drums, I mean my music drums, I mean my steal? It's not stealing, we're giving it away, so it's free. Yay, right? But anyways, hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna give a brief rundown of the mics for you ultra nerdy tech guys. On the kick, we got an old AKG D112 and an NS10 woofer cone, which is pretty cool. On the snare and the high tom, we got these 421s from Sennheiser. We got an SM7 on the floor tom. We got these lovely taped up Shure SM81 on the hi-hats and underneath the snare. I got these AKG 414s and a spaced pair. Also the Sennheiser, what's the model number again there? 416, Sennheiser 416. Don't edit that. I wanted you guys to know that other people were in the room helping me out the entire time. Say the model number again really loud.
416.
416, one more time.
MKH 416.
Say it one more time.
MKH 416 by Sennheiser.
Right, it's the beautiful mic. Buy it now for this much. And also we're using these really cool Cascade DR2 ribbon mics for the rooms. I got 2 ribbons, so higher output. But anyways, it's going through a bunch of mic pre's. I'm not gonna list those. But from San Francisco and the Black V-neck, hope you enjoyed the drum video. Drum out.
If you're a music producer, subscribe to our channel and stay up to date on the latest Pyramind tutorial videos, track breakdowns, elite sessions, and more. Visit us at pyramind.com.